And we are live.
Sweet.
Hello, hello. Appreciate everybody tuning in. This is Stone Guy 223. I'm going to do some quick introductions, but this is going to be the kind of weekly or bi-weekly Never Enough Ammo Geek Chat. We're just doing it on my channel tonight. Get everybody used to the fact that Never Enough Ammo is going to start doing this on his channel, I guess, every other Monday or every Monday. We'll figure it out. But from my left, we've got D.B. Cooper.
Yes, I'm here, and I'm a geek.
And
Holler.
we've got Edge 4006.
The Edge, and Stone Guy is looting Matt for all he's worth.
And gun websites.
Howdy.
The Tac Daddy.
Thanks for the invite.
Oh, yeah. And then we've got Never Enough Ammo himself.
What's up?
Take it away.
All right. Well, let's see. So this is the Geek Chat. We do this at least 6 months out of the year, I'd say, for the last 2 years, right? This would be the third year we've been doing some sort of like Monday night chat that's unrelated to guns for the most part. Although we do stuff like cool action movies and gun movies and stuff like that. So anyway, so it's getting to be that time of year again. We're going to have Walking Dead popping up. Which, of course, is what a lot of our Monday night chats tend to center around, is the whole Walking Dead chat. But, of course, we like to talk about other things, too, throughout the year. So it's just kind of a general geek chat, talking about all the stuff that we don't really get a chance to talk about on all the other chats throughout the week. So we get to talk about movies and TV shows and just whatever geek, pop culture, cool stuff that just is fun and that we like to, that's a hobby or whatever. So I didn't really have a much of a set thing for tonight, just more or less to kind of get this introduced so that people will start to get used to it again, because I think we stopped doing them, sometime in the spring is we cut off doing the Monday nights. We usually only do them about half a year. Usually comes spring to fall, from about middle of spring through the summer and into fall, we don't do them on Monday nights as far as the geek stuff. And then we start them back up again when all the new TV shows like Walking Dead come back on, and then we do them for a few months, and then they kind of die off after a while. But so I didn't really have anything set in stone, but I just kind of wanted to get everybody pumped up for the Monday Night Geek Chats, for the Walking Dead stuff and all the stuff that's going to come on that. So we do want to talk a little bit about Walking Dead. I think we do need to go through and talk about what happened last season on the Walking Dead, because I'm sure Stone Guy doesn't remember any of it because he didn't watch it, because he uses the chats. You know what's going on. So,
He thinks that chick's still pregnant.
yeah.
Carl came out of the closet.
But no, there's a lot of other cool stuff. There's a lot of cool shows that are coming on this year that I'm looking forward to. We'll see what turns out to be good and what ends up sucking. I just watched the I don't know why, unless you just watched it, you didn't have time to see it, but that new Gotham show, which is the y'all have heard of that, right? The Gotham TV show. It just premiered tonight. Came on just like an hour ago. I just finished watching it before we got on here.
Like Batman Gotham?
Yeah, it's basically a show that centers around
Like Smallville, except for Batman.
Yeah, it centers around Gotham the show starts when Bruce Wayne's parents get killed. So he's still a little kid in the show. He's like 10 or 11 or 12 or something. And it's got all the characters from Batman when they were young. So you've got like the Penguin in there before he was the Penguin, and the Riddler before he was the Riddler. And the star of the show is really Commissioner Gordon, but he's not a commissioner yet. He's just a police detective. Cool concept. The first episode was pretty good. So we'll see if that show pans out. But I don't know. It comes on Fox. I enjoyed the first episode. A lot of cool stuff if you like. Whether you're a fan of the comic books or you just like the movies, it's a pretty cool concept, so it's fun to watch. And then what else we got coming out this year? I don't know about new stuff. There's not a lot of new cool TV shows. A lot of stuff coming back, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is cool only because it got good after the second half of last season. The first half really kind of sucked.
It got good? What?
It got good. It got really good, actually. So it's coming.
I'll go back and watch it again because I don't remember it getting good, and I could watch it at some point.
If you start with the episode that ended the first half, because they took like a winter break throughout Christmas and all that, and then they came back like 2 months later and did the second half of the season. Well, the episode that they ended on in like December to end that first half of the season was like the first good episode they had, and it left with this cliffhanger, and then you had to wait 2 months to come back and see the rest of the season. And this whole second half of the season was really good, but the first half was just, it was painful to watch. That being said, there was no way it was going to get canceled, because even if it does horribly, horribly shitty, that is the perfect commercial for all the Marvel movies, and Disney has more than enough money to keep producing it. So they'll keep making that movie, because for right now, it's basically, even if it sucks, which it doesn't now, but even the first half of the season it sucked, but it was basically just there as a weekly promotion for all the movies that Disney and Marvel are pumping out. So it's just a lot of, it's free advertising for them, and people are, so. But let's see, what else? Anything else? What else out there like that you guys are watching that's cool, like that, TV show wise?
I watched
Netflix.
that Dome show, and I don't think I
Under
like
the
it.
Dome.
I still watch it for some reason.
I like
Which
it.
one?
Under the Dome?
The one with the dome.
The first season was good, but here's the problem with Under the Dome. I read the book, okay, and this show is
It's a book.
and
It's
even
a
the
book, so it's just a start and a finish.
It's a book, yes. And
Okay, so there is a conclusion to it then? It's not
Yes,
like it's an
yes.
unwritten thing? Okay.
And this show is just going on and on. Even in the first season, I was like, man, I figured it was going to be just one season. You know how sometimes in the summer they do these shows, it's just one season, you get a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's almost like just kind of an extended miniseries. I thought that's what
Kind
it
of
was.
like 24.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was going to be. And then they ended it that last season on like a cliffhanger. I was like, there's no way the show should be over, right? Because I've read the book. How do you stretch this out? I mean, the book takes place over the course of like a week and a half to 2 weeks at the most. And the show's like weeks and weeks, maybe, I don't know, it's been a month. They're already
They're still like in
Yeah,
the second week.
they keep going like after a week or a couple of weeks ago this happened.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't-
last time I watched when they were saying I think they still said they were in the second week of this going on.
Well, a lot's happened in 2 weeks. I'm just saying.
No, there's probably 3 because they haven't said second week for a few episodes.
It's dragging out. I'm still watching it just because I've read the book, so I want to see eventually how stuff's going to change. I'll tell you what, from reading the book, they changed a lot. I don't know if anybody cares. It's not really spoilers because they've changed it so much. But if you plan on reading
Don't
the
spoil it.
book,
I don't care about reading the book. It's
Well,
Stephen
if
King, so that's the reason I don't even want to watch it.
it's like Walking Dead, only even more so. They've changed so much from the book that I could tell you the whole book and it wouldn't spoil anything. You know what I mean? Like they
So
changed.
was the book good or was it all right?
The book was good. The book was really good.
Okay. All right.
For one, like the main character Barbie was actually the show starts out he's kind of a bad guy. You know what I mean?
I thought the main character was the redhead.
Well, not in the book. In the book, the main character is Barbie. It's the guy, and he's the same thing. He's an ex-military guy, but he's like down on his luck, ex-military. He ends up working in that town and he's been there for a while. You know, the show starts out he just came into town. In the book, he's been there for a while working as a chef at the restaurant. And the redhead in the book, she's an older lady. They never hook up. She runs the newspaper and lives in an apartment above the newspaper. She's not married. None of that stuff. They changed all of that. And the biggest change is Junior. You know, Junior Rennie. He in the book, he's a complete psycho. Like he murders people. He's crazy. He's psychotic.
Yeah, I don't like that character at all. I don't understand that. That's just because Stephen King's fucked up.
Yeah, he's completely insane because he's got a brain tumor that nobody's diagnosed, and so he keeps having these blackouts, and he keeps having like these massive migraines, and his dad's a complete asshole, so he's just like whatever. And his dad's a murderer too. His dad kills somebody with like a baseball trophy at one point in the book, and the kid like murders these chicks and hides their bodies in a closet and goes and visits them and stuff. Like real twisted stuff. The kid's messed up, so they changed that for the movie or for the TV show. So because I guess they couldn't have a character that evil.
I get the idea that they make that TV show and then they watch and see what people say about it, and then they make the next TV show and then they watch see what people say about it, and then they keep altering it to make it so that whatever people like, oh, I like how the redhead's in it, and then all of a sudden she has all the lines.
Yeah. I mean, it's a decent show. It's just I keep watching just to see what will happen next, basically. But I don't know. Let's see what else we got.
The boat one.
The boat one. Which one?
With the viruses or something, where everybody dies if you get the virus.
Here's the thing about that show. Okay, I watched. It was the Last Ship. I watched that show because first off, it comes on right after the other one. Or actually, it was coming on right before. What's the alien one? I forgot the name of it. The one that's kind of just gone downhill the last couple.
Oh, you mean Falling Skies?
Yeah, Falling Skies. But
it went downhill as soon as they lost that blonde.
Yeah, but that was like first season. But
no, she was a bad guy, so she was in off the runs, and they killed her off though.
But I watched Last Stand, and because it was a cool concept, and, as a prepper, I was like, you get excited about that kind of stuff. I watched the first episode. I was like really hopeful for it. And the first episode was good, and the second episode was okay, and then by the third episode, I was bored, and then me and my wife forced ourselves to watch the whole season, and we were just like every episode just got worse and worse and worse, and then the last two episodes when they finally make it back to the U.S. got really, really good. Like, that was the show I would have watched. I wish they would have started at that point. You know what I mean? All the crap in the middle, I could have done without. All the, we're running from the Russians, and we got to go to Cuba to refuel, and, let's go catch some monkeys. Like, these are episodes. There was an episode about them having to catch monkeys.
And then the episode about them catching monkeys was all a bunch of damn drama. And then, during the commercial, they went out and caught all the monkeys, and then all of a sudden they have a perfect assortment of monkeys for the rest of the time the show's on.
Yeah. But it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. But then the last two episodes, right there at the end, when they make it back to the U.S., and you get this taste of all this stuff that's going on and all this stuff that's been going on in the U.S. while the virus has been taking hold, and you got this feeling like what the government's been doing versus what the militia's been doing and all this stuff. That was all really, really cool. And I was very interested in that. And it lasted 2 episodes, and then the show ended on a cliffhanger. So I wish they would have started from that point. I would have been very interested for them to kind of fast forward through that whole first season and just get to the point to where, we've got, they had a scientist on board who has the cure and blah blah blah. Because we could have got through all that crap in like 2 or 3 episodes at the most and gone straight to the whole. Okay, we're back in the U.S. and that's kind of that was the cool part for me anyway. I enjoyed those last 2 episodes, so I'm hopeful that next season will actually be good because it did get renewed. So we'll see.
All right, well then, how would you want it to go? If you were writing the next season or whatever, what would you have them all get back on the boat, or the boat would just like be the city or something?
I would see. You got to because of the name of the title and the characters implies that the ship has to be a part of what's going on. But I would keep it as a secondary thing. That would be like they always have to go. They always have their little safe haven back on the boat. You know what I mean? But like I said, the good stuff was in those last 2 episodes when they finally got back to the U.S. And it's not just them on a ship trying to catch monkeys or whatever the hell they're doing. It's them dealing with what's happened to the government, and it felt much more like a lot of the stuff that you like to watch on Walking Dead, where you get to see finally what society is like and how people have changed and how the government changed. And there's this whole aspect where they have this militia who's running a certain territory, or at least that's the way it was implied in the last episode, that you got this militia that's running a certain territory, and so they're almost like their own little state, and then the government's formed their own little state. And and it's just cool little intricacies, and I would play on that a lot more because that's, I think, much more interesting. And then you kind of have the ship as the backup, you know what I mean? You kind of cut back to that every now and then just to kind of keep things flowing from the aspect of the last ship.
Well, here's what I'd say. You remember in the Z movie with, the book, and then the movie with Pitt, how there was, in the movie, the movie they barely talk about, I think, but in the book, is that the World War Z? Is that the right one?
Which one?
The one that was the book first, and then it has Brad Pitt in it, in the movie.
Yeah, that's World War Z. Yeah.
Okay, so in the book of World War Z, they've got those boats, and they talk about the boats a little bit. At least in certain parts, they talk about how people had to get out to the boats, and those were like islands for a while. I would think it'd be kind of cool to see a show where they just kind of hang out in the boat and travel port to port. Just kind of either helping out or probably encountering all kinds of bad stuff and good stuff along the way, and then seeing around the world, not necessarily staying in one spot and seeing, using their boat as a sanctuary or whatever, because I could see it going either way. Or maybe like a bunch of boats meet up and become like a Battlestar Galactica, where they're just kind of out, zapping resources where they can, or trying to find places where they can hide out for a bit before they get infected or something.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that would be a cool idea. That was kind of the idea that I was kind of thinking that the show would be up front, was you would have that kind of, they're going from place to place and place to place, and you get to see the world and different aspects of it and all that kind of stuff. But then it turned into catching monkeys on an island somewhere, or running from a Russian ship. And I was like, well, so I mean, if it turns into that, I'd still be completely cool with that.
I thought it was a little fake for sure, because I'm not a Navy person or nothing, but it just seems weird to me that you can just drive a boat pretty much wherever you feel like, and then need gas when you need to for the plot. It just seemed like a little bit reaching, like now all of a sudden, it's just like the Dome one, like, all of a sudden there's enough food because that one lady hoarded food. Yeah, right. Like a person can hoard enough food in one house to feed like that whole town underneath the glass dome for a while. Those kind of things they kind of ignored some stuff, but it kind of got me, I guess, after a while, even with the Russian garbage, just because I kind of like the concept of they've got almost everything you need on a boat, at least on that boat, with the helicopter and the rafts that they can zoom around in.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cool concept. I just think they executed it poorly in this first season. It wasn't.
Would you rather see it on like an aircraft carrier? Or then the same question, what if it was on an even smaller boat?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, well, the aircraft carrier, you get more of this kind of a city vibe, And I do like
right. And they'd have the planes, and they could probably like have way more gas, and it would, because the aircraft carrier can like really go out for a while.
And with that, reactor. There's also, there's more you could open up to more. I also like the idea, which is something they briefly talked about what you said in World War Z, the movie, but they went into a lot more detail in the book, which was they had in the book they talked and went into a whole lot of detail with all the characters and all the different stuff of this floating city where all these ships and all these submarines got together, and they connected up and they became this floating island out in the middle of nowhere, I think in the book it was in the Pacific Ocean somewhere, and that's another really cool concept.
I think that would happen because the boats could basically boogie out of the way of storms, and then pretty much not have to worry about somebody swimming out there or whatever, or getting the disease. Just fish.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of potential for a lot of cool concepts. And it's a TV show ultimately. You know what I mean? I sit there and I look at it from what about this and this? But it's a TV show, and at least they're trying. They're trying to put some cool stuff out there.
Well, think about it. Isn't it I think it's the nuclear, like the battleships that can be out at sea indefinitely. Like they make their own air. They can.
The submarines. The air carriers have their own nukes too, though.
Yeah, there's submarines that do that, but I thought there's a battleship out there that.
The ones that make their own.
What kind of? The only thing that makes its own air is a submarine. Everything else doesn't need to make air.
Stone Guy, I think you're thinking about the Battlestar Galactica. I believe.
No. There's some. I was watching some Discovery Channel special, and the air thing was about the submarine. That was kind of two different things.
You mean water, maybe?
But yeah, there was something they were saying that they could literally be out at sea indefinitely. Like that ship contains everything they would need to live out there forever.
I think aircraft carriers are like that too, though.
Yeah, aircraft carriers are like that, except
giving them food.
Yeah, as long as you keep giving aircraft carriers
food. But if
food.
they had nothing but fishing poles instead of airplanes, then they just float around catching fish, catch a whale once in a while.
The aircraft carriers resupply by frigate ships on occasion, but for the most part, they're
Actually,
pretty
you
decent.
could paint the bottom of the aircraft carrier to look like a female whale. You get all kinds
Are
of
we
whales,
giving
probably.
away military secrets to the enemy or something like that? Should
No,
we be
shit.
talking about this on air?
ISIS
I
is
don't know.
watching this chat. So.
I'd love to see a battleship built by ISIS. That'd be like a little rowboat with like 10 guys with AK-47s.
Real quick on the ISIS thing, you guys know that we started the
We
attacks.
started airstrikes in Syria. I beat him to the punch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
damn
yeah.
it.
Fox News, MSNBC, CNN. It's breaking news right now.
Airstrikes.
So maybe that's why nobody's watching, because everybody's watching the world end.
I believe the president's going to start talking in about a few minutes or something. Cause
Well, maybe my views will pick up when he gets on air.
He's
'Cause,
prizing
yeah,
the shit out of Syria.
They have a camera fixed on the White House, and it looks
Wait,
like
wait.
the door's open. So I don't know.
So we began airstrikes today? Is that what started?
In Syria, which is new.
Oh, okay.
Which we've been trying to do for a while.
Are we sending ground troops? I thought that was like in the plans.
There's a
No,
few
but
hundred there
We
already.
have bad guys that we're going to be fighting in about 10 years with weapons now, and we're training them to go
It
fight.
depends on how boots on the ground polls. If it polls well, then yes, they'll send him in.
Am I the only one when people say boots on the ground think of that guy, pants on the ground, pants on the ground?
Looking like
Looking like a fool with your
Nope.
pants on the
I
ground.
don't think of a naked guy at all.
American
man.
Idol.
ooh,
American
maybe.
Idol. Back to this Geek chat. Thank you. It's breaking
By
news.
the way,
Just wondering.
Matt, you forgot one show coming out. I think it's the start of October. Flash on CW.
Clash. What's that one? Oh, Flash.
Flash.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, because if anybody watched Arrow, which by the way is a really good show, I wasn't sure if it was going to be any good when I first started watching it a couple years ago, but that's actually a really good show. If you like, I think Flash is a good show for people who are interested in the kind of sci-fi comic book stuff, but they're like, I don't want to watch a show with people with a bunch of superpowers and that crap because they don't want to go that far. You know what I mean? It's a good show because it's much more. I guess it's much more grounded in reality than like Thor or whatever it is. Because it's basically just a guy, a vigilante with a bow and arrow. Although how likely you're going to run around with a bow and arrow, but still, it's a good show. I like it.
But how come they're all like that? How come none of them are just an old-fashioned superhero show, like where he's flying around and something smashing a city and he's laser beaming them and it's a superhero show? These are all like dramas that they have superhero like themes.
Yeah. Well, that's the cool thing about it is because like Battlestar Galactica, for instance, that's been off the air for a long time. But I mean, if you ever watch that show, it's a really good show. It was a really good show because yes, it was a science fiction show, but essentially what it was a military drama that just happened to be set to the backdrop of a science fiction show. And I think that's what they've tried. What they're trying to do a lot now lately is trying to basically take a concept like if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for all intents and purposes is like fucking it's like a team drama. Something along the lines of NCIS with possibly a little bit more humor. They just happen to throw it in this superhero world.
Sure.
Hey,
Has
Matt,
anybody seen? Oh.
Yeah.
I was just going to say I'm building a Daggett, just for the record.
You're what?
How?
I'm building
Out
a
of what?
Daggett.
Out of what? Monkey?
A couple different things. It all starts with
Talking
that
about
My
a real
Little
one?
Buddy. No, yeah,
I'm ready.
a robotic dog that can. Hopefully one day it's gonna be able to carry a backpack.
It's like R2-D2 mixed with a monkey. Come on, you never seen Battlestar Galactica?
You don't know what a Daggett is?
Daggett,
That's
yeah.
over everybody's head on the G.
It was on in the 70s.
It was that.
It
Yes.
would have needed to see it in the 80s.
It was
They
like-
must not have had them in the 80s version of Battlestar Galactica.
My bad.
No, it was that little. It was a little. I always thought it looked like a fucking panda bear.
It looked like a panda. It was a monkey inside of it.
Starbucks Kid was in charge of it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
It's like the
Oh, I
future
know what you're
dog,
talking about.
but the real thing had a monkey in it, so it kept sitting down like you're saying. So it looks like a panda bear when you look at it because it's always sitting down.
Oh, it had a monkey inside of it?
I didn't know there
Yeah,
was.
that's what I'm saying. It was just a
That I
big
did not
suit with
know.
a monkey in it. That's why it would do stuff and it could it could do stuff, but it always kept sitting down like a panda or like a bear. It sits down like a monkey would if it had a suit on.
I thought it was
to bring back
Mothman.
Fantasy Island and have Larry the Cable Guy be the host.
You guys obviously don't care enough about that.
Wasn't
Okay,
his,
who has
wasn't the
seen-
dogs? Well, wasn't that weird robotic monkey dog things Moppet? Moppet?
Yes. Excellent pull. That is correct. And the little boy had it, and he would send it through the air ducts and stuff to save the day quite a few times.
Yeah.
On the original Battlestar.
The original
Yeah.
Battlestar. And
Now,
I still remember that from my
Who
childhood.
here's a fan of the original Battlestar?
I am.
Very much. Very much.
When I was a kid, it was the bomb.
Okay, because
I was a fan, but I don't remember. I was so young.
here's the
I
thing.
personally like the what are they, Cylons, and better than TIE fighters. I don't understand where TIE fighter came from, but it seemed too fragile, dumb. Put a big giant target on both sides of your ship seems dumb.
It was an
There are
interesting.
the Cylons look like an
Look like a
actual
ship.
fighting ship.
Yeah, it looked like an actual ship. Yeah, no, I know. Because I've had conversations online with people before where we've talked about Battlestar Galactica, and I absolutely hands down I love the new version of Battlestar Galactica.
Oh,
It's
that's awesome.
It's a much better show than the original, but the original show for its time, and even now if you go back and watch it, is still a really, really good show.
Or James Olmos.
No, yeah,
I was just
they're
gonna say-
different almost. I mean, you got to
I can't
them
get past that guy because
They're different. They're very different. There's a core commonality there just on the basis of the plot.
Well,
Other than that, they're
and
very different shows, and their approach very.
they did a good job of lining them up so that they both happened and they both existed, right? It's just that one of them is way farther away from the other one.
You bring Lieutenant Castillo in from Miami Vice into that show, you got it made.
Who
I mean,
here has seen?
they're just- Those two shows were approached from different aspects because of when they were made and all that kind of. But they're both very good shows. I mean, the newer version is a better put together show. It lasted longer. They were able to put more time and energy in the plot points and in the characters and that kind of stuff. So I
But then
mean,
you're I think it's apples and oranges only because you can't compare it because back in the day it was thought of as like the Star Wars, let's make some money off of Star Wars on TV. So, in other words, it didn't get a lot. Like it wasn't like now where the new one had a lot of backing because it had like all the people that were looking for a science fiction show.
were
Anyway,
the ships
I'm saying if you would have gave Battlestar Galactica back in the day all the resources the new one had, it could have gave it a run for its money.
Greenback
Here's a question. Here's a geek question. Would you, back in the day, the original Battlestar Galactica ships versus the original Buck Rogers ships?
Buck
Who was
Rogers
the-
ships.
Rogers was
man, here's the thing.
I have to think about Buck Rogers ships for a minute.
Buck Rogers ships basically look like a more streamlined version of the snow speeder from Star Wars.
Yep.
Essentially,
That's not a bad call.
just in.
Wait, are we talking Buck Rogers off of TV, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna look on the internet.
We're talking original Gil Gerard.
Gil Gerard, that's right. That's right.
And then what's her name? Something Gray.
Linda.
Linda Gray.
Linda Gray. There you go. Yeah. Before Silver Spoons. Pre-Silver Spoons.
Ah, yeah.
She was always, and what's funny about what I remember about that show is she was always trying to bang Buck, but Buck was always banging all the other chicks.
Everybody else but her. Yeah.
But her.
Eventually, no, that changed.
He did hit
That
it.
show was only on for like 3 seasons, wasn't it? It was or 3 or
Yep.
4. It seemed like it was on a lot longer than it was, but it was really only on for like 3 or 4 seasons at the most. And through those seasons, a lot had changed because I think at one point they had to change the whole concept, and they went out into space, and they got the bird guy. What was his name? The guy that was
Birdman. Remember the Birdman? Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
And they had to change like the whole concept of the show because they were losing.
His name was Freaky.
Once that happened, they did another.
Somebody's gotta Google the Birdman and get the picture of that guy. Birdman from Buck Rogers. Somebody
Yeah.
throw it on a screen share.
Yeah, the Birdman from Buck
damn,
Rogers is.
That guy was classic.
Yeah,
I think that was a way of interpreting Native Americans into the show.
there you go.
Yeah.
But no, he was no, but that was a cool show. That was actually a good show. I enjoyed that. I think you can still get that on Netflix. Buck
It
Rogers.
is on Netflix. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think you can
Buck
go back.
Rogers? Wow.
You can watch Buck Rogers on Netflix. That's some good classic early '80s sci-fi right there.
Saturday
Hold
afternoon.
on.
Saturday
You
afternoon, the
can
lineup. Oh,
You
go ahead.
can watch Buck Rogers on Netflix, but
Yeah,
it is
Buck
not
Rogers
good.
is on Netflix.
It does not have lasting appeal. I tried. I really tried, and it's tough to watch. It's really.
Really?
Staying power's no
Yeah.
good there.
Yeah,
I mean, I wish I
tried
could
to
say it was good, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I tried to rewatch The Greatest American Hero, which was my favorite show as a kid, and I could not rewatch it. I mean,
Greatest American Hero, that is a show begging to get remade.
I've been saying that for 2 years.
Show that needs to get remade. And I don't
Little
want
House on the Prairie.
to remake it to take away from the original, because the original was really good, especially for its time. But damn it, that's just such a cool concept of an alien. It's almost Green Lantern. You know, you got an alien that gifts this guy this powerful suit, or you know, Green Lantern, it's the ring. But then he loses the instructions and doesn't know how to use it.
His name is not Birdman.
For all the conservatives in here, you need a good dose of the Waltons.
It's a great concept, man. It's the superhero who's doing his best, but he's given this power, and nobody fucking told him how to use it. And so he's fucking just falling down, and half the time, the CIA agent is doing most of the work, even though this dude's got the superpowers. It's just a cool concept. This guy, I want to see that on TV. That's what
I do as well. I will second what that one got. I've been saying that's the one show that needed to be remade for 2 years now.
It was a great show, but you got to keep the same theme song.
Check him out.
Oh, hell yeah.
You got to keep the same theme song.
Or maybe an updated version of it, but the same lyrics. I could take that.
But that's a great classic sci-fi show right there. I want to see more of that.
The Girl Hawk.
Hawk right there.
Yeah, she looks like.
To redo Little House on the Prairie.
No, she looks
Check out
good.
that outfit.
No,
Anyway, that's also-
absolutely not. You know what I think a great modern sci-fi show is? Revolution. I'm really sad they canceled that. That
You
was
know what?
that was a deep
I
show.
really like that show.
I do too.
And don't get me wrong, it had its dull moments.
Sure.
It had its points where
Wait
you're
a
like,
minute.
really?
Which one is this one? Is this the one where everything just is
NBC.
off because
The
of
power
electric?
goes out
Power
because
went out and all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
That
But
was
there's
It
this
lost
whole,
me
like,
after a while. That chick is so. Her eyes are so weird. It freaked me out. I
Yeah,
quit
but
watching.
there's this whole like underlining tinfoil hat like thing behind it that's just really interesting how they tie it in.
Yeah, no, there
Matt,
was
I think
a lot
you
of
agree.
good stuff in that show. There really was. There was a lot of cool stuff, and there was a lot. I mean, there was a lot of places they could go with the plot points that they opened up in that show.
I like how they opened it up with the the different militias, and then you had the fake United States come. I mean, I'm still watching season 2. I haven't even finished it yet. So
No, it's a
I tried to watch it. I fell out of it. I couldn't take it after a while.
I
really,
had the same problem.
There's no doubt that it had its rough points, absolutely. But if you power through them, overall, looking back at the series, I enjoyed it. You know, I thought it was a good show. I wished it would still be on.
I
because
thought
there's
it was
lot
a
of cool
really
stuff.
accurate representation of what would happen if you can't generate power. I just thought that was such a unique twist. Like, you
See,
can't have any form of electricity anymore.
Here's
That-
the biggest plot point that I noticed. This is the only plot hole that to me was unacceptable, and they should have at least explained it. Okay, they should, if they wanted to, they should have at least come in and come up with some way to explain it. But there was
What was
absolutely
that?
no way for any electricity to be generated whatsoever, not even lightning in the sky. So how the hell were we all still alive?
Well, the
That's
thing was
my whole point.
that is kind of explained. She said like the nanobots, they're clear. There's like quadrillions of them in the air, and apparently they just soak up all the electrical charges around us, except I guess the electrical charge in our body. I guess.
And that's the thing. They should have explained that. They should have explained, hey, look,
it's all
these-
coming back to me now.
Here's all the explanation they would have needed. Yeah, these were originally designed to be medical nanobots, so they do not take the electrical energy out of the human body. They just take it out of everything else.
Well, you gotta like it. Well, there's a.
It would have taken 10 seconds to explain that at some point in the show, and they should have done that. Because
You're
it was,
right.
I thought that they showed a bunch of people die in the beginning because they had pacemakers and stuff.
Well, they died because they had like pacemakers and stuff, but we have electrical impulses running through our body all the
Yeah.
time. That's how we get signals to our brain. And this
Speak
is
for yourself.
Cord, remove the cord.
prevents that from happening. So
Well, there was a whole
Tinfoil hat.
conspiracy theory behind why they didn't affect the body but affected everything else. And then there were the necklaces that would allow power within like 100 meters or whatever. I mean,
Oh, that's what they were. Okay.
Yeah. My biggest problem with the series was how much of a pussy Aaron was. Like, on multiple occasions, I was like, dude, you need to man up. Like,
Well,
he
that's
just
the thing.
constantly
I'll
pissed
tell
me
you what,
off.
that's the thing, because you would think that after him having gone through this for 15 years, he would have become, I mean, even if he was a pussy before, if he survived for 15 years, he obviously learned some shit.
No,
And
here...
they portrayed him exactly the same way 15 years later as he had been before all this happened.
But even when he went to Texas and he had his new girlfriend and everything like that, and when he found out he had ultimate power that he could just set people on fire by thinking about it, he still couldn't bring himself to save his girlfriend. I was like, really? Really? I don't know if anyone remembers that.
I'm afraid of TV shows like this because if I get even the slightest hint that this show is not going to be on for like more than a couple of years, I watch 2 years of it, and then I'm afraid like nothing will have closure. They'll never explain anything. It's like complete waste of time.
So
I kind of like these new shows that are like one and done, like True Detective or the Sherlock that's on Netflix. It's like a season is 3 episodes or something. Like, you can watch
the
it.
reason Sherlock.
That show is awesome. But here's
No,
the
yeah,
thing.
I like shows like that. Like if you could just do one season of a show and it's successful, but that's it. Like just that's all you need. You know, maybe 2. But when they start doing this long-term, like making it up as they go kind of shit, like in Lost, I always felt like Lost they were making it up as they went, and then eventually ratings go down and they're just like, hey, bye.
But see, here's the thing about Lost, though. I don't, as somebody who was not, I thought Lost was a good show, but I was not one of these super fans that nitpicked every little thing in it, or one of these super fans that just fell in love with the show. I was just like, watch it and go, this is a cool show. And when I watched that show beginning to end, there were plot holes in it, but I was like, it's still overall a really good show. You know what I mean?
That was a great show. I loved watching that show.
From beginning to end, I enjoyed it. There was some stuff that I'm like, I wonder why they didn't explain this or go back to that or what happened this. But overall, I was like, hey, I'm satisfied with how it ended. You know what I mean? That show does okay. And then there's some shows that you're just like, oh, no, that's, nah, I can't.
Well, I can ask you guys. You might know. So how did Revolution end? If it got canceled, do they? You know,
I
is it
haven't
just-
finished watching the series because
okay.
It basically ends on a cliffhanger because when it got canceled, they had already finished the second season of the show, so there was no, you know what I mean? It's not like when they were doing the last episode, they didn't know it was the last episode. You know,
I hate that.
They thought it was, and that sucks. I don't like it when
That is gonna suck.
But I mean, yeah, especially when it's a show that I actually enjoy. Sometimes you don't give a crap.
Now, who thinks Shane from The Walking Dead was killed way too early off in the season?
Yeah.
I think they killed him off way too early for his character to.
I didn't like him.
No.
I didn't like him either. I hated the guy.
But
But
here's the thing: in the comic book, which is depending on how you look at it, there's a lot of things in the comic book that are much better than the show, and vice versa. You know, because they have to make the show more responsive to a larger audience and to work on the TV show. But in the comic book, he gets killed way early. Like he's not nearly the big character he was in the show. He didn't make it 2 seasons. I mean, if you compared the comic books, you know, tried to match up the timeline, he would have essentially died in like the 5th episode. I mean, that's essentially how far he made it in the comic book. He was never supposed to be a big character. They just used him to try and drive some plot points. And then they eventually ended up in the same place, which is where, you know, because in the comic book the same thing happened. He ended up turning into a zombie because he tried to kill Rick because he wanted to take Lori. But in the comic book that happened way, way earlier. That happened pretty close to I mean, that happened very, very soon after Rick shows up. And he's like, shit. He thought Rick was dead. He thought he had Lori. He thought everything was good. And then all of a sudden Rick shows back up, and he's crazy, and he pretty quickly tries to kill him.
see, I had no idea there was a comic book behind The Walking Dead till just now. So
Really?
okay, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
No
that's
idea at
where
all.
it came from.
I don't read comic books, so okay. Surprise, surprise.
It's a big,
He's a grown-up, Matt. So.
yeah.
You can stay anyway, I guess.
I haven't read comic books in quite a while, but even
Well, I wish I had read them as a kid, but I just never got into them as a kid. I guess the video
I
game
used
world
to-
kind of
They
took
were fun
over.
to collect when I was a kid. I used to love it.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I still read comic books, so
No, I should probably read them. But
yeah. I've always liked comic books. I went through a period of about 15 years throughout my 20s and into my early 30s where I didn't read them because I had better things to do or I had a job or whatever.
so clarify,
Got back into them.
do graphic novels count as comic books, or is that just?
They are comic books. They
Same
just
thing.
call them
They're
graphic
just
novels.
like annuals or slow.
People want to say, "Oh, I don't read comic books. I read graphic novels."
Oh, okay.
It's still a comic book, okay? Look, I'm going to show you. I got what's considered a graphic novel right here.
Oh, see, I have one of those. I have a couple graphic novels.
Yeah, it's
but
a
I
graphic
thought that
novel.
was
But
different.
you know what? It's still a comic book, okay? This is still a comic book. You know what I mean?
Because I have the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and I didn't know if that qualified or not. So.
That is the comic book, yes.
They used to make annuals too of the popular comics in the 80s. I don't know if they would do an annual once a year. That was
Does
kind of X-Men.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen count as a movie? Because that was one of the funniest bad movies. It was so bad, it was
Love
good.
that movie. Holy shit.
I
can
watch it every time it's on, dude. It's
all the
horrible.
time.
What was that?
It is not. It's not the best movie around, but there is. If you literally sit down and watch it, I've tried because I've heard so many people complain about it, and I sit down and watch the movie, and I'm like, this movie is accomplishing exactly what it was trying to. You know, people go, oh well, this sucks, and oh they did a bad job trying to portray this
cheesy.
man, or they did a bad job portraying this character. But what people don't understand is that's exactly how they were trying to portray them in this kind of very well, I mean, if you've read the graphic novel, you know.
Oh
They
yeah.
portray them in this very kind of fantastical literary way.
Well, the only character I really had a problem with was Mr. Manhattan. He's basically God. Like his character really doesn't make sense if you look into it. Like he loves his wife, but then he kind of doesn't, and then he's like omnipotent, so he can see into the future and the past simultaneously.
You're talking about Watchmen, not League.
Oh, never mind. Whoops, I got my.
Yeah, League of Gentlemen was like.
Although, let's talk about Watchmen because that happens to be one of.
Yes, I got mixed up.
I'm gonna say that when it comes to comic book movies, now I love the Iron Man and the Avengers and all the new stuff that's coming out. I love the X-Men, but Watchmen is still one of my favorite comic book movies. And so many people bitch about that. But
So how did you feel about Mr. Manhattan, though?
If you have ever read the comic book, if you've ever read a comic book and then watched a movie about that comic book, there has never been a better direct adaptation from graphic novel or comic book to screen than Watchmen. There are some changes. There's no doubt there's some changes. But there are far less changes in that than there is any other comic book movie that has ever come out. Period. And it was done very, very well. And I'm not a fan of Zack Snyder, okay? I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, he's okay with certain things, but he did Watchmen perfectly. Like, that was about as good as you could get. That's about as good as you can expect a movie to be when it's adapted from a comic book.
The director, Zack Snyder.
What about Buckaroo Banzai?
What are his other movies?
300 and Man of Steel. What else did Zack Snyder do? I know he's famous for 300 and.
Yeah, 300 what got him, you know, and he did great on 300. 300 was pretty. I mean, it was up there. You know, I mean, as far as I never read the. I kind of skimmed through the graphic novel that 300 was based on. 'Cause that's another one. All his movies he's known for are based off comics. You know, 300, Watchmen, Man of Steel. That's all stuff that's based off of comic books. That kind of seems to be his little area. And it's
Man
not
of Steel
because
is a comic book.
Yeah. But no, it's. I think it's just because of his visual style. He's got a certain visual style that he's known for that kind of comes off as not realistic. You know what I mean? Honestly, that's the best way to do it. It looks like a comic book. You know what I mean? Watchmen looked like a comic book. You know, 300 looked like a comic book. Even Man of Steel, you know, it was much more realistic, but it still looked like a comic book. The action, everything looked like a comic book. So, I mean, he fills that little area. If that's what somebody's looking for in a movie.
Shit, the old Adam West Batman series looked like a comic book, you know.
Yeah. I mean, he does that very well. There's a lot of pros to him. I mean, I don't think he's the best director in the world by far. He's got his drawbacks, but he has a certain visual style that lends itself well to that kind of stuff. But you know,
Back to Buckaroo Banzai, what were you saying?
Buckaroo Banzai. Okay, now how many people here have actually heard of this movie?
Me?
Okay, and how many people here have actually even seen it?
It's one of the best movies ever made.
Exactly.
I watched it on Netflix
Buckaroo
like a couple
Banzai
months ago.
is just fucking amazing. It is this movie. I think this is right. I think it's got Peter Weller in it. I believe right
Jeff Goldblum.
It's like right after he did RoboCop in the 80s. And if you watch the movie, you would think that this came from something. Like, was this a comic book? Was this something? But it was.
Right? It was a comic book.
The what?
Nah, it was a comic book.
Buckaroo Banzai was a comic book after the movie.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought
so
I
they
thought
made
it
a
was a
comic book
comic book
I think
before.
they made it after.
Yeah, no. Buckaroo Banzai was completely original. Like it was
Wow.
completely original, and you wouldn't know that watching. You would think this had to come from a comic book, or maybe an old 1940s serialized, thing that you would go to the movies and watch.
I think that's all they were trying to do is play around like an old 40s movie.
They were trying to make it feel like that, and they did such a great job that you watch this movie thinking, okay, I got to go see where this came from. I got to go see where the source material is. I want to see the comic book or whatever this came from, because it just felt like this had to come from another era. It felt like it had to be.
It was like the Fifth Element of the time.
They start the movie and you have no idea who these people are. They just start. It's almost like it's right in the middle of a story. Like it's the Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, and they start the movie
part
out.
6 of 10.
Yeah, there's no origin story. You don't know how these people got to be the way they are. It just starts like it expects you to know all this shit, and you're like, what? Did I miss something? And you would think that would throw you off, but it doesn't, because it's completely watchable to this day. It holds up like really, really well, and it's got a bunch of people in it. It's got Ellen Barkin and Jeff Goldblum and Peter Weller and
The bad guy from Highlander.
Yep, it's got what's his face, Christopher Lloyd. Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
Yeah, John Lithgow from.
John Lithgow. It's got a bunch of people in it. And it's extremely well made, extremely well done. The only thing that ever bothered me about that movie is that it didn't do well enough that they continued to make more of them, because that was the idea. They were going to make several of these movies. I think what I heard was that Peter Weller and all the cast had signed contracts to do several movies if it did well. They were going to make a series of Buckaroo Banzai movies. And for anybody that doesn't know what the concept is, it's basically just about this guy who, I don't even know how to describe him. He's just like this adventurer / he has a band, and he's a scientist, and he's kind of a superhero, and he's
like what Dan Blitzerian wishes he was.
Yeah,
He was a brain surgeon, right? I remember he was a surgeon.
He's just like a little bit of everything.
That reminds me of me. Actually.
He's basically the coolest guy in the world. I mean, that's essentially what they tried to do. They said, hey, let's make a guy who's the coolest guy in the world. And he does
Just takes advantage of his opportunities to the fullest.
Yeah, it kind of bombed. I don't. It was sort of like the Howard the Duck.
Are we gonna blow past Highlander?
Highlander and the bad guy in Highlander.
Well, here's the thing about Highlander, because you got to take it. You got to take it movie by movie. Highlander 1, awesome. Highlander 2, the director's cut, awesome. The one that was released at the movies, not so much. Then you had Highlander 3, which was okay. I mean, what did you had these he's already gotten to the point to where he's grown, he started to age, and he was the last one, and then all of a sudden these old immortals that were trapped in a cave and assumed dead for all these years, they come back to life, and so all of a sudden he's now immortal again until he kills them. Kind of a cool concept. Then you had Highlander Endgame, which completely screwed up the whole line of movies, because they did that stupid TV show where Did anybody watch the Highlander TV show?
I watch
No,
episodes on occasion.
I don't want to call it a stupid
Sadly,
TV show. It wasn't a stupid TV show.
There's
Basically,
Duncan. What was the other guy's name?
Yeah. Well, there was was it Connor?
Connor and then Duncan. Yeah.
Duncan. Yeah.
yeah,
So they-
I
the TV show-
watched it.
Wait, did you say you didn't like the TV show?
No, that's what I'm saying. I actually like the TV show because of how they ended it. Basically, they ended the TV show with saying that Duncan was never supposed. He was sent there to fight this great evil. He was never there to compete to be the last one. He was never there to compete to be the last immortal. And so that show ends with him basically having accomplished what he was going to accomplish, and basically he disappears, right? Essentially, you know. And so that leaves it open for Connor, who was the guy from the movies, to be the last one, because that was the whole point of the movies. Was Connor was the Highlander. He was the immortal who would eventually be the last one, and he would get to grow old and, you know, live his life and all that stuff. That was the whole point of the movies.
I still press anybody to find a Scotsman with the name Ramirez.
Yeah. But then they decide, hey, let's make one more movie, and they mash up the TV show and the movie together, and they kill Connor, who we already know from all the previous movies was supposed to be the one that lived, and they let Duncan live, who we already know from the TV show disappeared because he accomplished what he was, you know, he achieved his fate. So they completely screwed up everything that they had already established in the movies and the TV shows with that last movie, and it was just all bullshit. So, whatever.
I like movies like that. I remember I was like probably in 5th grade. My dad took me to a movie. It was Highlander. I hear he really didn't give a shit if it was rated R or not, obviously. But I just remember like we had no expectations of that movie, and just walking out like in 5th grade being like, wow, that was like one of the best movies I've ever seen. Like, I don't know. That was just the coolest movie, like, because there were no expectations at all. Sort of like The Matrix, like the first Matrix. I thought, oh, you know, just went to see it like no hype, no expectations, and just was like, wow, that was awesome.
The Matrix is the shit.
I think the first Matrix. We did one of these podcast things, live chats last year, where we did what was it? The best action movies of all time, or the best sci-fi movies of all time, or whatever.
Sci-fi, yeah.
And I think we all agreed that overall, just because of a general consensus, that The Matrix, the first one, was the best sci-fi movie of all time, right? Like, that was the only one. Like, we had.
I think Alien 1 will give you a run for the money.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
on
just
that
saying.
one.
No,
Star Wars.
Well, because
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was Star Wars
Empire.
or something.
Yeah,
No,
Empire.
because remember how we worked it out? We were all given a week to come up with a list of our top 10 sci-fi movies, right?
Yep.
And we all came up with those movies. And the movie that between all of us, the most of us had on our list was
The Matrix, yes.
And so by default, because all of us at least had The Matrix on our list somewhere in that top 10, we said, well, essentially that makes that one the best movie, because we all agreed that was at least in the top 10. So
Is that chat still up?
Yeah, and some adult.
Star Trek 2.
yeah, it's on my channel somewhere. I don't remember
I
where.
remember that.
And it's free to watch.
For now.
And going back to that, if they had stopped at The Matrix and did not make those crappy other two, it would be on the top of my list.
The problem with the other two sequels for The Matrix wasn't that they were necessarily bad. They were overall, if you don't compare them to the first one, they were still good, entertaining sci-fi movies. The problem was that they went in a completely different direction than the first one. There was no basis in the first movie for any of the character development and any of any of the story anywhere that they just shot straight into with the second two movies. You know what I mean? You just went in a completely different direction than what you were expecting with the first movie. The first movie set a certain course, a certain path, you know? Okay, this is the type of movie I'm expecting. You know, you were expecting a movie that takes place in the Matrix, that is concentrated there and fighting a certain type of enemy and doing a certain type of thing, and then the second movie comes along and the third movie, and it goes in a completely different direction, and you're just thrown off. You're like, this is not anywhere close to the same movie that I'm watching. And, I mean, they're not bad movies. You know, but they are nowhere near what the first one is.
It's like I can kind of forget about the first three. No, Star Wars. I'm talking about actually 1, 2, and 3 here, not the first three made, but the first three.
Yeah.
I can forget about those movies and just concentrate on the trilogy and forget about the Ewoks. I'm not a huge fan of the Ewoks, and get through, Return of the Jedi. It's still, Empire Strikes Back is still, the shit for a movie. It's my favorite by far of any sci-fi.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I think Alien 1 was definitely the best out of all the Aliens. I think Alien Resurrection ruined it. I think they just went in a really oddball, way off direction with the third
Here's the thing
Alien.
about the Aliens franchise is none of them are really bad movies, okay?
No, the third one was bad. I disagree. The third one went off on such a weird direction, like
It did.
with the baby alien that was out of Ridley. Like that was weird. That made no sense.
Here's the thing. I don't know. The direction they went in, there's a lot of stuff. I think all the Alien movies are watchable. Now, obviously, the third one is the worst. I'm not going to deny that. The third one is by far the
Even
worst.
the second one made way more sense. I mean, at least they're on a...
Is that the prison one?
Well, the prison one was the
Yeah.
third one. Now, here's the thing about the Aliens movies, though. There is, and I'm not going to, it just depends on my mood and what I feel like watching, but there is a lot of argument to be made that the second one is better than the first one.
I don't see that. The first one captured that classic type of horror where you're like, they're completely unarmed and you're waiting.
It's a different type of movie. It's a sci-fi horror. In fact, it is the first sci-fi horror movie.
The second one was a shoot 'em up movie. It was these monsters are here.
The second one was a sci-fi action movie. But the second one, without the second one, the Aliens franchise would be dead. Okay, without James Cameron and doing what he did with the second movie, the Aliens franchise would be dead.
I'm just saying, in the first movie, when you watch the first movie, you're sitting there and it's suspenseful because they don't have any weapons besides the little flamethrowers they hawk together. This thing you haven't even seen until the end. You don't even see what it looks like.
Yeah.
In the second one, you completely know what to expect. I mean, they have weapons. It's like you said. It's an
here's
action
the thing
movie.
about the second one. The thing about the second one is, unless they had decided to basically repeat the first movie with a different, let's say they said, okay, we want to do the same. We want to make another movie that's basically a sci-fi horror movie. They would have had to basically come along and say, okay, we're going to take a completely different crew that comes along, another alien, and we're basically going to repeat essentially the same thing that happened. Maybe they don't do it on a ship, maybe they do it on a planet or whatever, but it's going to be the same thing.
No, I see what you're saying. I'm fine with them.
Yeah, they decided basically. They said, look, in part 2, what we're going to do is we're just going to go the natural extension of the first movie. So the second movie isn't going to be that suspenseful horror movie anymore because we now know what we're facing. So we're going to take it in a different direction and make it more of a sci-fi action movie. And they did a really, really good job of that.
They did do a good job. I'm just saying that you can't really match the first one's suspense,
No, they
when
can't.
you're watching it. I mean,
and I don't think they weren't trying to. They were trying to. There were some scenes where you could tell they were trying to make it a little more suspenseful or make it a little more kind of creepy or whatever, or what's going to pop up around the corner. And they did an okay job with that. But essentially, it boils down to it was a sci-fi action movie. It wasn't supposed to be a horror suspense movie like the first one was.
Yeah.
So for me, it depends on what mood I'm in. If I want to watch a suspenseful horror movie, well, obviously I want to watch the first one. If I want to watch a sci-fi action movie, I'll watch the second one. I think both movies are done very well, and I don't think one movie's necessarily better than the other. They're just different.
As long as they don't go the Prometheus route and try both things at the same time and fail at both. I had such high hopes for Prometheus. The visual effects were great.
They're making a sequel to it. They're making a sequel to Prometheus.
I didn't
No,
like Prometheus.
They screwed up the story so bad. It doesn't follow anything.
It doesn't, and they came up, and I can understand I'm completely down with this race of beings that was seeding the galaxy. I'm completely down with the aliens being some sort of genetic, weapon or whatever. Even though if you read the comic books, that completely doesn't make any sense, because in the comic books, which are all what do you call it? They're all sponsored by the people that own the rights to aliens. But in the comic books, there is actually a planet where these aliens came from. But okay, erase that. Erase the comic books. I'm still down with the whole idea that the aliens evolved from some genetic, experiment to try and create a biological weapon. But the way they did it, the way they ended, it was just bad execution across the board. You know
See,
what I
I
mean?
kind of liked the whole Predator connection with Alien. I know a lot of people
did
hated
too.
that,
No,
but I thought
that
that made
was
perfect sense. I mean, Predator needed an ultimate enemy to
Yeah.
hunt.
That
I
makes
liked that whole
that was
crossover.
great.
I
Yeah.
think those universes were
Wait,
made
there was
for each
Predator
other.
stuff in Prometheus?
No, not in Prometheus, but they kind
Oh.
of combined the Alien universe with the Predator universe, and they kind of drew it as the Predators hunted the
You're
alien.
talking about the Alien versus Predator movies.
But you know what
Yeah.
that comes in before that? If you go back and watch, there's one scene and it goes by in a flash. And you got like 2 seconds to catch it. In Predator 2 with Danny Glover, okay, which is not a great movie, but not a bad movie. It's definitely watchable. There's a scene right at the end when Danny Glover goes underground and he finds the alien ship, the Predator ship that's under in the sewer or under the sewers of Los Angeles, and he goes in the ship, and there's one scene where it kind of the camera flashes by a wall with a bunch of trophies on it, and one of the trophies is an alien skull.
I've never seen that. I guess I
Go
just
back
didn't
and
notice
watch it.
that.
It's on there. I've watched that
I
scene.
really don't like Predator. I mean, yeah, Predators 2. I thought the first one was really good, but
Yeah, Predator
I'll have
2
to go
is
back
not.
and watch
It's,
it.
again, it's one of those things. It's like, I mean, compared to the first one, it's a horrible movie. If you just compare it to just as a sci-fi movie, an alien movie, it's not bad. I can definitely watch it.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to think of the time. At the time, it was
And
it wasn't a lot going on. It was a good sci-fi movie.
Yeah, no, and at the time it was what, 1990, I think, when the second one came out. I mean, it was very much of that era. You know what I
But
mean?
you agree that the Predator and the aliens go really well together.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely,
I
yeah.
think that was just perfect. I don't like this new Prometheus twist about the race that was seeding the galaxy. I don't get where they took it with that. I was hoping Prometheus would explain the whole Predator-alien connection. I think they took it in the completely wrong direction.
Well, no, the way they got the engineer, or whatever they want to call it, that master race was Geiger, the artist. Like, he designed a whole bunch of stuff for that first movie, and there was a part where they found the first ship in the first movie, and there was that machine.
You're right. I remember
with
that.
the guy sitting in it. It was sort of like we need to do a sequel, but we don't want to do a sequel, and we don't want to reboot. So let's just. Oh, I remember there was that gigantic machine with the gigantic person sitting in it. We'll do a movie about the engineer.
Why did they want to kill us? Was that in the comic book, or what was the whole deal with wanting to kill the
I
human
didn't read the
race?
comic book. I don't even get that. That's what it was going in that movie that they wanted to kill us. I think they were experimenting around the world, like the galaxy, and like.
No,
he
had the
planets.
ship full of aliens, and he hit the Earth on his little mini map. He tried to take the ship to Earth to bring the aliens to exterminate us.
Yeah, no, they plainly said that they wanted to kill us. That's why they created the biological weapon that was the aliens.
Which deletes
was
Predator
it something like was it something like when they're done experimenting on a planet, that's how they erase the planet or something like that?
It was never
because they were
explained.
clearly like humans. They were like big humans almost.
Yeah, but it was never explained why they wanted to destroy us, ever.
Yeah, no, it didn't say it. There was there was a lot that.
I just hate that it completely deleted the Predator out of the picture because they made that master race and they created the alien. It deleted Predator.
I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up now. I'm pretty sure Christopher Nolan's Interstellar that comes out in like less than a month and a half, I think. It'll explain it all.
I don't know about that movie.
It'll explain Prometheus and The Matrix, why Matrix 2 and 3 suck. You don't think it's going to be good? I mean, I'm betting on it being excellent.
No, I didn't say that. I saw the preview when I watched The Maze Runner the other day with my brother, and the preview didn't really thrill me. It kind of confused me, to be honest.
Yeah, I hope it's not too confusing. I don't need Inception in space, but I just want something like...
Now, did anybody see The Maze Runner? The Maze Runner was a good movie.
I was thinking about checking that out, but I just didn't have... I couldn't... All the previews I saw weren't really working. That I could wrap my head around the movie about go checking it out, so I need to watch it.
Maze Runner, I was going to go see it, but I realized I went through puberty already, so I was like, I don't know. I mean, it was a while ago. No, I thought it was like one of those teen movies, like the tweeners.
No. It's I started reading the books after I saw the movie. Like, it's actually really good.
I'll check it out. I'll check anything out when
It's
when
not
it's on
alien
video.
good, but it's a decent sci-fi movie.
Well, this movie wasn't sci-fi, but it was still geek. It's classified, basically hacker stuff. It's out of the '90s, and I remember wanting to see it like at a dollar movie. And it kind of broke me and my buddy. But to watch this movie, it's called Sneakers, and that was a cool freaking flick with Rob Redford, Sidney
Sneakers was
Poitier,
awesome. Sneakers was an awesome movie.
and Dan Aykroyd.
I got that on DVD, and I love that movie. If you haven't seen that movie, you got to check it out.
Hey, is I Am Legend based off another movie called Omega Man? Is that correct?
No, it is the same movie. It's just a
Doesn't
remake of that movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
here's
okay.
the thing. Well, Omega Man was a book, and Omega Man, the original movie with Charlton Heston, was based off the book.
But weren't they vampires in Omega Man? Or what, am I thinking of something?
No, they weren't vampires. They were. I mean, it was kind of insinuated that because they could be out in the
They were
light,
sick
had
or something.
skin, that kind of thing. But it wasn't that they were vampires. They didn't like suck people's blood or anything like that. But they
They were
kind
just like
of
sick and they couldn't come out at night or
Yeah.
during the day.
They
But-
weren't like from I Am Legend though, like unable to talk and like they were basically like the zombies.
Oh no, they were zombies.
Oh, they were okay.
I mean, they didn't like have conversations with the guy. He set up like bells to know if they were there, kind of shit.
Hmm.
Could you have a conversation with the mannequins?
I think they were talking about doing a prequel to I Am Legend. That would be cool. But he's obviously.
I don't know
older.
how you would do that. What would the
You
prequel
can't.
show?
I'm not a fan of
The Earth going to shit.
Will
Yeah.
Smith's
Well,
movies.
here's the
I
thing,
never have been.
it was like pretty much explained in the flashbacks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it could be during it or whatever.
I mean, I can
How
see
he
them
got
doing,
all the stuff.
a movie that wasn't necessarily a prequel, but a movie, because that's a cool concept. So you could do a movie where it's like somebody else or a group of other people in the same situation at the same time, but you're not concentrating on his story, you're concentrating on theirs, which is what they're doing with Walking Dead, by the way. You know they're shooting a pilot for a new Walking Dead spinoff.
Are they
No.
really?
Yes, sir.
Yep, they're doing a pilot for a Walking Dead spinoff that is going to be about a different group of people, and I'm assuming it's still in the United States, but they haven't said for sure.
It's called Rolling Dead, and it's like about a retirement home and everybody's zombies in wheelchairs.
Now, as far as zombies go, though, do you guys think the zombies in The Walking Dead or the 38 Days Later or World War Z zombies are more realistic or better?
Well, here's the
World
thing.
War Z zombies are
Whoa.
terrific.
Now, hang on, because let's 28 days later are not zombies. Okay, they are alive. They're not
Okay.
dead. They're alive. It's a virus. They call it in the movie.
Rage.
They call it the rage, and it doesn't kill you. It just makes you insane, and you try and kill people. That's why they don't have to shoot them in the head. They can shoot them in the chest or whatever. They put them down. So they're not technically zombies. But the zombies from World War Z, even though overall I like the movie, I enjoy watching the movie. I think it's a fun movie. It's a good zombie movie. When you boil it down, the zombies in World War Z, the movie, not the book, but the movie, are completely ridiculous. How the hell can somebody dying all of a sudden make them acrobats where they can jump on people from 20 feet away?
Adrenaline.
Exactly.
Adrenaline explains everything.
Gravity doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, all of a
You're
sudden,
like an audition for the
now I can jump all over the place, and I can do flips and jump from freaking 10 stories
Well, I
up.
agree with that, but they're not going to be like walking
You
towards you
have
slowly,
limitations
like in The
from
Walking
Olympics
Dead.
here
They're not going to
because
limp
of
towards you
zombies.
either.
I think so.
I mean,
I
here's
think
the
it's just
thing.
barely going to be
The
an
whole
automotive, whatever that's called. Like, it's just responses. They're not even going to be thinking. They're just going to be.
They're decomposing too, right?
Well, I mean,
I mean, they're
the whole
dying.
thing with a zombie is that the body is dead. So, I mean, the muscles are going to start to
Atrophy.
yeah, well, not just atrophy, but you're going to start to go through rigor mortis. The blood flow is going to stop. Muscle tissue, everything else is going to start to deteriorate and die. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
yet they can chase
No,
you
but
and eat you.
aren't real zombies supposed to be reanimated by like a witch curse? Witch Doctor
yeah,
curse.
like the old school, like
So if it's a
original.
real zombie where they're reanimated by a curse, then I would say like the spirits or whatever are animating the body, and they're using it to do their spirit whatever, so you can give it ultimate powers or real fast. So I could see that being faster. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the adrenaline pumping through your veins, like the I Am Legend version, I think that's the most realistic.
well, they're not zombies either. Did they die and come back? Or I guess they did. They did die and come
They
back.
did die and
I
come back,
imagine.
and so did the ones in The Walking Dead. They died, and then I guess like meningitis.
Well, Walking Dead for sure. But I don't think the first real Omega Man, I don't think he watches people die and come back. I'll have to go double check.
All right.
No, he doesn't. I mean, they don't. Well, I mean, originally
It's more like you get sick and you become that.
yeah, they weren't supposed to have actually died. You know what I mean? They kind of. I mean, I think in I Am Legend, their heart kind of stops for a second, and then they come back to life. You know what I mean? Like it's not like they die.
No, you're
and their
thinking of World
bodies-
War Z, where you're bitten, and then within like 11 seconds you turn into the
Yeah.
zombie or whatever.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different in I Am Legend, but I mean essentially, yeah, I mean I Am Legend essentially was supposed to be, it's a disease. It's kind of like, I guess it's similar to the Rage virus from 28 Days Later, except for the fact that they become different types of creatures. They aren't just driven by rage. They have a sense of community and that kind of thing. They just become different. I don't know. It's a whole.
I don't get the skin thing. I don't get how their skin suddenly is burned by the sun, but
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. I don't know how they explain it. That's probably something that was explained.
I went and looked at IMDb, and they say that the original one from '71, so a while ago, biological war has decimated life on Earth, and disease turns all of humanity into the living dead. The last man on Earth, blah, blah, blah. So it's a biological war that creates the living dead.
That makes sense. That sounds about right. Yeah, because I remember because I watched the original Omega Man several times, and I remember because he's a scientist, and I remember he's on a helicopter, and the helicopter crashes, and he's got the cure, or he's got the antidote or something. I can't remember what it is, or a vaccine. It doesn't help if you've already been infected, but there's something happens, I can't remember what, and he crashes and he has this thing and he gives himself the injection, and then it cuts forward to like 5 years later or whatever it is, and he's living in the city in this big house and all that stuff. The original one's actually really good. If anybody, it's hard. I know it's hard to go back and watch some old movies. I mean, we're talking about the early 70s, so you're talking about something that's, what is that, 40 years old, damn near, So I mean, it's rough. It's rough to try and go back to watch it, but if you can get past some of the stuff, it's actually a really good movie. It works really well. It holds up pretty good for something.
It's a really good classic sci-fi movie. I don't know if anyone's ever watched it besides me, but Logan's Run. I really like that classic one.
That is another movie that is
such a good movie.
That movie needs to be remade in a good way, and I hope they don't screw it up if they ever decide to remake it. But that movie needs to be remade because it's such a good story.
It is a good story. I thought it made sense too, especially
they're
for the
remaking
time.
it. They're remaking it too with
Scanners.
Ryan Gosling and the guy who did Drive.
They kind of already remade it with that In Time with Justin Timberlake, and I thought that kind of sucked compared to Logan's Run. Like, I think that was the remake of Logan's Run.
I thought that was an okay movie. I thought it was a terrible
I don't know if
It
it
was
was a remake.
okay.
It just used a similar concept. Is all.
But it's slightly.
Well, they had a watch in their hand, just like in Logan's Run. I mean, I think they kind of ripped something off from it,
In Logan's Run, you can't swap time with people, though, can you?
No,
that's true. You
That
can't
was
swap
the
time.
whole concept is you can swap.
I think they even called them Sandman, though, the police who caught the runners or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that was probably more of a tribute to Logan's Run than anything else. I don't think that was necessarily. Yeah, because it's a very different. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's some inspiration there, but I mean, if they're remaking that, I hope they do a good job because it's such a good movie and such a good concept that but it would also at the same time be really, really easy to screw up because what makes that movie so good is the is the idea behind it and behind the meaning of the movie and what they were trying to accomplish.
It's the whole moral point. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. And it would be easy to make that movie and remake it, and just from a completely,
Hollywood standpoint.
Yeah, just kind of giving it the surface treatment. You know what I mean? But they really need to drive the heart of the movie to make it a good movie. If they don't pull that off, it's gonna suck.
Just like I wish they'd make Soylent Green again, and that's another one like the same type of thing. Soylent Green would be an awesome remake.
How many awesome classic sci-fi movies?
If they keep making all these movies, though, then pretty soon they're going to start implementing these things. You know how the government is.
That's not even wrong. No, but seriously,
yeah, I forgot about that. Let's do that.
No, but seriously, how many classic sci-fi movies has Charlton Heston been in?
Planet of the Apes, Soylent Green, Omega Man. I mean, or at least 3.
Some of the, but those are some of the big ones. Yeah, he's got a role there, but
Ben-Hur.
Oh,
So,
Ben-Hur,
guys,
yeah.
On another topic, have you guys heard about Obama wafers? They seem
No.
like they're pretty good.
what? What?
All right, this is why I had to run away. I took the dog out, and there was a screech in the backyard, and now we have this.
Wafers?
Yeah, wafers. What?
Oh, am I breaking up or something?
Yeah.
All I heard was Obama wafers.
Are they vanilla wafers? Or those
Obama
banana
wafers,
flavours?
different colors for different days of the week.
Nice.
People,
Do they make you hate the Second Amendment when you eat them?
There's not really death boards. It's just that when Obamacare feels that you're not contributing enough, you become an Obama wafer.
Yeah.
All right, Tack, what was I looking at?
I don't think it was that big a stretch. We were talking about Soylent Green and stuff.
Some car jumped the curb. Now the cops are talking to him like they're his best friend.
It's all good. Has anybody been watching The Strain on FX?
Oh yeah,
I watched it. Yeah,
That's
I watched
awesome.
a few.
I've heard of it. I don't know what it's about.
It's
I'll tell you what. It took 5 episodes to get going on that show.
yeah, it's
What
a
is
little
this?
slow,
It
but
really did. It was slow going at first, man. I was having to power through that show.
I enjoy what they did to the
It hit, like,
idea.
episode 5. As soon as
Yeah.
episode 5 hit, it really kicked in. It got good, real good.
I really enjoy what they did with the whole idea of how the vampires are and what they do and how they infect each other. I think that's cool.
Oh, it's a
I
vampire.
think it's cool just because it's very. They take all the kind of mystical shit out of it. It's very scientific. You know what I mean? I like how they explained why silver hurts them and all the different stuff. You know, it's a disease. It's a virus. I mean, that's cool. They tried to make it more modern and something that people would understand and not look at and go, oh, well, that's just some. He was cursed by whatever. You know what I mean? They tried to make it realistic.
Well, they show how it changes your body and makes you turn to it makes all the organs work differently, and I thought that was cool. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, I think they did a good job. They did a good job with the show.
They're just still kind of slow. I want to see what happens with these crazy vampire hunter killer squads or whatever they were. They haven't brought that in yet. They show them for once, and it's been 4 episodes. And they haven't brought them back.
Yeah. No, I'm sure it'll kick in.
I feel like it's been flooded in the last 4 or 5 years with vampire stuff.
Oh, I totally agree. But, I was kind of like, oh, man, The Strain, it's about vampires. I was like, well, you know what, give it its day in court, and watched it. And it was different. It wasn't what all the normal, suck blood vampire
Well, I like
BS,
if they took the mystical stuff out of it. That's interesting, at least.
Yeah.
And that's a twist, so.
Let's see what.
Do you guys remember that vampire movie in the late '90s with James Woods, where he has that cruise and they're in Texas?
Vampire.
Dracula?
Yeah, man. Okay, man, there you go.
It's a good movie.
That was a kick-ass flick. I liked it, man. The angle they approached it with.
That's classic John Carpenter, kind of horror movie. That's a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, the reverse
You
exorcism.
remember what was that movie, Daylight, from the 80s too? It was the same kind of vampire movie.
Daylight?
I think they remade that in 2011.
Daylight.
I remember.
Daylight was a movie with
Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, that was like him being
Oh,
like.
no.
Which movie are you talking
Or
about?
maybe it was Daybreak.
Yeah.
Was it
Daybreak?
Daybreak.
A
Daybreak.
couple
Yeah.
years ago, right? Like 2 or 3
Yeah,
years
No,
ago.
this was in
Years ago,
the
they
80s.
Daybreak.
A bunch of vampires and stuff. It was sort of like,
Pretty sure Daybreak is a morning news show.
oh, maybe. That's,
Yeah.
maybe I'm thinking of Fright Night. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, you're thinking of Once Bitten, dude, with Jim Carrey.
It wasn't Fright Night.
Nobody's
Maybe it was
thinking.
Daybreak.
Blackula. Come on, get it right. Blackula.
Whackula.
Now, see, I want another Mad Max. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that's coming out already.
That's
Well,
coming
it's
out.
already coming.
Oh,
Next
is it
year.
really?
They've
I thought
already
just the video
franchised.
game was coming out.
It's next year, right? Or is it
Yeah.
soon?
Next month or something. I
Got
thought.
gonna be
Tom
another
Hardy in it or whatever.
Yeah, and it's not it's not a remake. It's basically
A prequel, isn't it?
no.
Different story.
It's after.
I thought it was
It's
basically like just
In between, I thought.
Oh, in between. Okay.
It's the same character, just it's another one of his stories.
In between where? I thought it was
In between
after
Roadrunner
Thunderdome.
and Thunderdome.
No,
I don't
really?
think I don't think it's after Thunderdome because he's old in Thunderdome. Remember, he's got gray in his hair and stuff.
That'd be Road
Thunderdome was
Warrior.
supposed to be like his last adventure or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it would have to
this
be.
one?
But I like that they do it. It's not a remake. It's not another origin story. It's just here's the same character. This is another, just adventure or whatever. This is another situation he
Right.
found himself in.
You got to imagine how many adventures this guy had, like in between any of those movies.
Yeah, it must have been pretty busy.
Yeah, but I was just saying because he's got the car that they destroyed in Road Warrior, right? So it could be in between Mad Max and Road Warrior. I don't
Well,
know.
in the sneak peek,
So you're just basing it off of his vehicle?
Destroy that.
I'm basing it off the car, and I'm basing it off his age because if he still looks kind of young. They could have made him look older if they wanted to.
Well, that's the
And
thing.
then-
It's a different actor, so I mean, all those movies are only 10 years apart, maybe or something. So
I guess,
he doesn't. They could have a different actor come in and easily be after, and you'd never know.
What you
Did
guys
you
think about-
realize that after Road Warrior, like they describe a utopia, like they made it there on the buses and stuff? I watched it again recently. Like, wow, okay,
Yeah,
But they were-
exactly. That's why Thunderdome was such bogus.
exactly right. So Thunderdome's like non-existent. Like it shouldn't even exist because they were saying like they found a place and those were the days of long gone, like the days of the Road Warrior. And then it's like 20 years later, 10 years later, he's like still in the same situation, no gas, and they're in Thunderdome.
What did you guys think about the Terminator franchise after Terminator 2 and started kind of going a little?
That's coming out again. Like that's another movie that comes. All these movies come out like
Is
around
Jake talking
Christmas.
shit about Terminator?
Nice. What do you think about them? I like the first couple of them.
Then he said that they started getting bad at the second one.
No, after the second one,
T2
it kind
was
of
good.
started getting
The
odd.
first one was good. The second one was good. The third one was just damn near unwatchable. The fourth one, I actually like, and nobody likes this fucking movie. I can't, I guess.
Wait, which one's
Yeah,
the
I
third
like
one? That's the guy who's made of liquid metal, isn't it?
No.
No, the third one is where
girl.
like they're
Batman
like killing all the kids, all the teenagers.
I thought
that are
the third
gonna
one was the
be
girl,
responsible.
dude.
Yeah, it was the girl.
The third one is the girl from that other shows and stuff, and she's like a veterinarian, and there's a truck.
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's the third one. That's the third one.
That
That
one
one's
was
not
And
good.
the fourth one is Back into the Future, where
with
Oh, that's the new
Bale.
remake spin on it or whatever, where it's
Yeah,
done.
it was like
Yeah.
2018 or something.
Yeah,
Bale
horrible.
saving the day.
They're
I'm saying-
watchable, but they're not good. In my
If you want to Google right now, I think it's called Terminator Genesis. They have Arnold Schwarzenegger as the senior citizen Terminator. He smokes a cigar. There's photos of him on set and makeup and everything. It looks so good.
Stopping by the old folks home and shooting all the freaking people.
how the fuck are they going to have an old Terminator?
Because they're
Yeah.
gonna say this. Okay, so I already read like how they're gonna fix this in the script or whatever.
Stop by the
His
hospice.
body ages, so he's in a human body, and the machinery inside is okay, but his skin is skin, and it will age.
You know
That's
what?
the way they're going to explain
You
it.
know what? No, you know
Bullshit.
what? You know what? I buy that completely, and I will go with that. Because if Schwarzenegger's in it as the Terminator, I don't give a shit if he's fucking 70 years old. I will enjoy that more than a lot of the other bullshit they will pull out of their ass. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's being filmed right now. It might be done already. They might have wrapped on production because,
I mean,
man,
I'm
that was a
serious.
while ago.
And I don't have a problem with that. Here's the thing, and I don't know, do we have an idea of when this takes place? Like, is this a continuation of the last movie, so it takes place in the future?
No,
they
that I don't
gotta
know.
introduce that Terminator still, because I mean they just saw like the early prototype in Terminator 4 because the timeline isn't correct. They haven't got to it in a full scale production, right?
Is
From the
anybody gonna
original
accept
movies.
it?
Well, I mean, the Terminator 4 came directly off of Terminator 3. Okay.
No, it came off like 10 years later.
Well, no,
Like-
I'm saying story-wise. I mean, this is the continuation.
Yeah,
of,
story wise, it was like 2018.
Yeah.
The Terminator 3 was like what 2004. That Judgment Day finally happened versus like 98 or whatever.
yeah. And
Well,
so,
no, I was reading about this too. Their timeline is completely messed up from like Terminator, Terminator 2, Terminator 3. Like the kid's age was messed up. If you look at Terminator 1 versus 2.
oh, I'm sure it's all jacked up because the
Yeah,
original
their whole timeline's jacked.
4 and the original Doomsday was what 1996 or something like that.
Yeah, so check it out. If the first one was in 84, right, or 85, and then the second one was what, 96, and the kid is like 17?
The kid was 13.
Well,
Yeah, no.
oh, maybe he was 13. Okay, so they did that right? Because I was thinking the kid was smoking cigarettes. I remember him riding a dirt bike.
Wait. The first one was in 84 and she wasn't pregnant. And the second one was in 91 or 92.
He got knocked up in the first one though.
Right, so the kid would have been like 10 or 11 or something.
No,
But I remember the kid.
The kid would have been like 8.
Oh, okay.
But they
That's
postponed Judgment Day by a certain
kid was
amount of
smoking
time, though.
cigarettes. He was riding a motorcycle and he was smoking cigarettes.
In the second movie, they never said what the
And
date.
hacking ATMs.
So for all we know, that was supposed to be in the future or something. Oh, no.
Mm.
The timeline is probably all screwed up. But at some point, you have to sit back and go, okay, I'm watching a movie. Do I really want to nitpick the fucking dates that bad? When
That's
these
true.
movies are made?
You want to make a
Movie
bunch of
was
dollars.
made in a different decade. Each movie
Yeah.
was made in a different decade. You have to give the people making the movies a little bit of leeway to go, okay, I understand, you know, I mean, you had one made in the 80s, one made in the 90s, one made in the 2000s, you know, one made in 2010, which is technically...
Are we still talking about Terminator?
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to give...
I'm not giving them an inch. I'm not giving them an inch because if you are watching a series like that, especially one that they know has a following, it's not just like, you know, some throwaway summer movie, some other throwaway summer movie that they're going to use 2 cast members and call it the same movie, right? This is like legitimate, you know, second follow-up to the main movie. Then you can't have gaps in the storyline and stuff. That makes it like horrible to watch. You question it. You don't understand because you think you missed something. No, I don't give them an inch on that. I think they should do all they can. I think the movie gets even better points when they can tie everything up perfect, right?
Well, no, I mean, it definitely makes it better. But, I mean, just from a practical standpoint, I mean, you got different actors, different directors, you know, sometimes different...
I hear you. I can understand it can happen. I'm just saying I don't like it when it happens, and I'm
Well,
not giving.
no, I mean, and it would be
I'll
great
still
if it
dig
were...
them for it.
I mean, I would prefer that it be much more cohesive. I mean, and that would make sense.
And
You
then
know,
James Brown.
but if it's still a good franchise, then you kind of sit back and accept and kind of go, okay, well, I understand, so I'm still going to give it a chance. I'm still going to watch it and try and enjoy it for what it is. So.
True, and it's not like Star Wars where they were like, hey, let's add garbage just to make toys and make extra money, and it was obvious and annoying. At least in Terminator, they were just, like you say, doing it because they didn't care or they didn't realize or whatever.
Wait, G-Webs, what was the garbage they added to Star Wars?
Ewoks.
Ewoks.
Things. Yeah.
I liked the Ewoks. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Yeah,
If you grew up with
Terminator
Star Wars,
by
the Ewoks were
Lucas.
freaking like trained on a chalkboard, pointless, blow off characters because we all knew that they were making money on Star Wars figures, and then they weren't because there was other people making other toys. So they're like, hey, let's throw a little stuffed animal one in there now.
And I can even forgive Ewoks. What I can't forgive is Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, Jar Jar
Yeah,
Binks.
I mean, I guess they do
Ferocious.
kind of pay for the movie or whatever. So
I like
the
how
movie
he's such
wouldn't
an
be there if
idiot.
they weren't making money on it.
Did you ever see
That
the?
becomes a diplomacy expert and gets to sit in at fucking their UN or whatever.
It's so. Did you guys ever see this thing that was on YouTube? Where it was like you can Google it. It was like racism in the Star Wars movies, and they brought up like Jar Jar Binks was like a dummy, and I don't know, what race he was supposed to be. Maybe like a Jamaican or something. The kid had like the slave master guy with some sort of greedy Jew guy or something with the nose and everything. Did you ever see this?
I
They
know.
had a
Also,
whole breakdown. It was so crazy. It was like,
Also, it's funny because Jews float.
Oh my god.
They
oh
also
yeah, I mean the
have,
way the guy talked was like some,
They
some,
hover around.
Yeah, this is crazy.
They also got E.T. in the General Assembly of the DL2 in the background. You see the little E.T. characters from the movie down there on like some floating deal.
Seriously, E.T.'s in the background.
Yeah, it's
He's
a
in the
giant
movie.
UN deal. Totally.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
By the way.
It's James Cameron crap or whatever, all combined with whoever.
Yeah, Spielberg
Who
and
looks for
Lucas.
hidden things in
They went to
movies?
school together.
E.T.
Yeah.
But
I
they
don't know
did that a lot because in E.T. Yoda is in E.T. In E.T. during Halloween he's walking by and it's Yoda like walking by him.
Oh yeah, it's one of the costumes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you do know Lucas and I just drew a blank on his name. Spielberg, we're in the same class in film school.
Yeah,
friends.
That's friends, yeah.
It's no different than what's his name, Adam Sandler, always having Rob Schneider make an appearance in any of his movies. They just do the same thing as directors. It's the only way they can do it, probably.
You can blame.
I do it a lot. I'll oftentimes have ammunition in my videos as a nod to never enough ammo.
See, exactly.
You can blame the last Indiana Jones movie on their friendship.
No,
yeah, that was atrocious.
Horrible.
Oh.
I didn't mind it.
I didn't see it. I refuse to watch shit like that, so I have no idea. It could have been great.
It's not really good or anything.
It was horrible. And here's the thing: it could have been a good movie. It really could have. There were, we could. I would have been.
The thing is, I liked Indiana Jones a lot, and I lost him after the second one. So I just watch him as action movies now. I don't really have any love for him.
It could have been. The last one could have been a good movie. First of all, the whole alien thing.
The kid from Even Stevens in there.
That's not what Indiana
was
Jones
horrible.
is about. And then Shia LaBeouf, fucking.
Shia LaBeouf ruined.
He just.
By the way,
he shouldn't be in any movie. Why is he ever in a movie?
I don't know.
I hope he doesn't ruin Fury. I really hope
he's
he doesn't
another
ruin
Disney
Fury.
protege who had that stupid show to my son.
Well, now he's in rehab.
Dude,
so it doesn't
has he
matter.
ever been in a movie? Has he ever been in a movie that didn't suck, or that he didn't suck in?
Transformers, I don't know.
I like Transformers 1.
You're saying that he was good in that? I mean, I like the movie except for him.
Now he was good in that Eagle Eye movie.
That was okay too.
I mean, was he really good in it, or could have somebody else?
Yeah,
done it?
exactly. I mean,
Somebody
he was
else
in it, and the movie was good in spite of him.
He was a shitty kid comedy filler show that Even Stevens. That's what launched his career.
Well, I
And
think
then
what happens
Disney-
with those kid actors is they know how to act so that they're hireable. Like, they probably sit there and shut up and do their job, except for the most part. Well, except for the ones that are crazy. They probably
That's
are good
all.
professionals, so they get hired. But they
Breaking
suck
news.
sometimes.
Breaking news. The stealth F-22 Raptor used for the first time ever.
Oh, nice.
Tonight. Breaking news.
Well,
Yeah,
the remake of
Way to keep secrets for like an hour, Obama.
what's that movie with Michael Douglas and Charlie Sheen, the one about the Wall Street, the remake.
Romancing the Stone? Oh,
No, Wall
The
Street.
remake of Wall Street.
Yeah, they're making.
What's that movie where they're in a platoon? Oh, yeah, Platoon.
Holy shit! Like he's been in so many movies.
Army
Seriously.
Days. But that one that wasn't terrible as bad as some of the other ones.
It would have been so much better if he wasn't in it.
I fucking like Charlie Sheen.
How do you get Wall Street on a
I'm
science
not
fiction?
talking about
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen. I'm talking about the remake of it.
Yeah, the remake. Well, after he
How
gets
do you
out of
get
prison.
a sequel of Wall Street in a science fiction chat?
I
We're
don't
talking
I
about
just
shit like
mentioned
that.
F-22.
He's
It
an
kind of looked
instigator.
And on that note,
Well,
F-22 Raptors.
hands down, best sci-fi series with a movie would definitely be Firefly and Serenity. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I was heartbroken when Firefly was
I-
canceled after the
I
14th
know.
episode.
Best sci-fi TV series, Star Trek.
Yeah, all right,
No,
I'm gonna
here's
give it
so
to you
much
for Star
better.
Trek.
I'm gonna say then here's what can happen. So we lost like Battlestar Galactica is not going on anymore, and then there's other ones. For me, Falling Skies, I like. Well, I guess it's not over, but anyway, you get the concept of them doing the Kickstarter to make a movie at the end. So why isn't Serenity gone over there? You know they can get a bunch of people to put together the however much money that could cost to make one of these movies.
You know why?
They did the one.
Here's the thing, because Joss
They
Whedon.
kickstarted it.
Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah.
Joss Whedon is like the biggest name in Hollywood right now,
Yeah.
so he's too busy to even.
Yeah,
He doesn't need
so
the
you think
money.
it's not that he just doesn't have time. You're saying.
Yeah, he's in charge of Marvel pretty much, like all these
He's doing the Avengers
Marvel.
movie.
How many people watch Serenity and have no idea that Firefly was the show that spawned off of?
I don't know, but Star Trek sucks.
Tons of people because it was a
Star
movie.
Trek is his shit.
That's blasphemy, Stone Guy. You can't say that.
Well, Firefly was really good.
Loud on a Geek chat to say that Star Trek sucks.
I don't want to do this. Still, you know what? Jim sucks, right? The cartoon.
Well, okay, here's the thing. There's so many different Star Treks. You have the original series, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and the Enterprise.
And,
In the movies.
Those are multi-season series.
You just proved your geek worthiness for this chat.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna say this: it's Star Trek over TNG, but Picard over Kirk.
Yes, definitely. Picard was the best commander out of any series. The least favorite would be Sisko.
Voyager sucked, and then
No, I liked Voyager. Sisko's incompetent as a commander.
I never watched the Scott Bakula one.
Voyager did not suck at all.
Voyager was cool. I liked Voyager.
enthralled with 7 to 9.
Deep Space Nine. Okay.
No, Sisko's
No.
horrible in Deep Space Nine.
Nah.
No.
Okay. Look, here's the
Make
deal.
an argument for Sisko.
We're about to wrap this up, but let's get one thing straight. Okay, you got Next Generation, top of the heap right there.
Exactly.
All right, top of the heap, Next Generation. All right.
No,
Then you got
Star Trek.
then the original series. Then you got the original series.
Okay,
no,
I'll give you that
good
too.
TNG.
All right. Then you got Voyager. Then you have Deep Space Nine. Then you have Enterprise at the very end. Okay.
Okay,
Not
you know what,
the
I'll
I
Enterprise-
agree with Enterprise at the very end.
Even
Enterprise-
though I like Jonathan Archer more than Sisko.
I do too. And it's not that Enterprise wasn't good; it just wasn't handled properly. But there was a lot of potential there. There was a lot of good storylines there. I like the characters, but it just wasn't handled properly. So you can't say that it was better than any of the other ones. So that's where it works. Now, if you want to talk about captains or commanders, that's a whole different list.
Yeah, you're right.
Overall shows, you got Next Generation, you got the original, you got Voyager, you got Deep Space Nine, and then Enterprise down at the bottom.
Well, at least we can agree on the Next Generation. That was Captain Picard did such a good job. That was awesome.
Near Dark is the vampire movie. I'm
Howard, you
talking
got
about.
captured by the Borg.
Anyone
The
seen
Borg
Near
is
Dark from the
best
80s?
enemy in all of Star Trek is the Borg. They're better than the Romulans, the Cardassians.
Got the Klingons.
Sure
The
about
Klingons are the friends, though. The Klingons are
Kardashians?
only in the first one.
Have you ever seen
Enterprise.
the original series? They're not the friends.
Executing Bruce Jenner.
No, I said they're the friends in
Let's
Deep
be honest.
Space Nine and the Next Generation.
Real quick, you want to talk about the Borg? The Borg are just Cybermen ripoffs. Okay.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
what?
Cybermen ripoffs.
I don't even know what a Cyberman is.
Okay, you never
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, but they're just Cybermen ripoffs. That's all they are. So, yeah. I mean, not that they're not good characters, because they are, and they're good villains or whatever. But yeah, they're just a ripoff of a whole nother thing, straight off of another show. So.
All right, I want to add one more thing about Deep Space Nine. That was a soap opera set in space.
Yes, it was very much. Yeah, and sometimes it worked for the show, and sometimes it didn't.
Correct.
They took some of the kind of exploration and cowboy action adventure out of what we had in the original series and some of what we got in Next Generation and then what we got again with Voyager. They took some of that out to make it more of almost a soap opera drama with Deep Space Nine, and it was still a good show. I mean, I love the show. I'll watch reruns of it, but it worked sometimes, and sometimes it didn't. When Deep Space Nine got really good was the Dominion War in the last like 2 or 3 seasons.
Yep.
That's when it got good. The first few seasons before then, it was slow going, and that's why I can't say it was better than Voyager.
What about the new movies that they made with J.J. Abrams as director? What do you think of
Those are
that?
great movies.
I think they're great.
Absolutely great movies. And I mean, they changed stuff, and but you know what? They're doing it for a whole new generation, a whole new audience. I get it.
The new Wrath of Khan was awesome, because if they had remade the old Wrath of Khan with the older guy, I think that would have flopped. But the way they did Wrath of Khan, I thought was awesome.
It was
really good.
Okay, here's the thing. It was awesome until they were literally trying to replay dialogue with Spock going, Khan! That was fucking retarded.
Yeah, you're right.
It didn't make any damn sense. And it was I understand, J.J. Abrams was trying to do a throwback to the old, he's trying to tip his hat to the old thing, but it came off as fucking stupid, and it was corny, and I wish he would have left that kind of stuff out of the movie.
The whole love story between Spock and Uhura is corny.
Yeah, that was dumb.
I don't
the guy that
understand.
got to play Khan though was good because you really, compare like when he's talking about breaking bones and stuff. I mean, the guy was pretty badass. Like the whole acting on that was excellent. They really sold his character.
Up until the last bit of the movie, I don't have a problem with the Uhura Spock thing, but up until the last bit of the movie where Kirk basically dies the exact same way Spock did in the original. And then Spock acts exactly the way Kirk did with the same dialogue and everything. Up until then, great movie. But that little chunk of the movie, which was so corny because it worked in 1982 with Wrath of Khan. Okay, it worked with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy in that aspect. In that way, you can go back, you can watch it. It worked when Spock died. And Kirk reacted the way he did, and Spock did what he did to save the ship. It worked then. Flash forward 30-something years later, it doesn't work in that movie with those characters doing. It just didn't work.
But for people that are new to the series,
chunk of the movie did not work. It was corny. It was stupid. I mean, overall, it did not ruin the movie.
No.
But it just annoys the shit out of me because I was like, that was so unnecessary. They did so much to try and differentiate themselves from the original show, and for good reason. They want to make it modern and work with audiences today. But yet they have to throw they have to do this throwback to this corny shit. It didn't make sense. It didn't make sense at all to me.
Well, for the people that didn't see that scene in the old ones, it wouldn't really matter. And
it wouldn't matter. But still, Spock reacting the way he did. In the original, you can see Kirk reacting the way he did. But even then, what they did was they took. If you watch the original, they took Spock. They took Kirk, basically yelling at Khan with that Khan bullshit, and when he was in a completely different situation, yelling at Khan like that. And then they applied it to Spock when he found out that Kirk died. Spock would not have reacted like that. In the original series, Spock never would have yelled like that or acted like that.
But they kind of
never fell in love with
it, though. They have broken Spock down to a different character in the new one than they have in the old one as far as his human emotions and all his backstory like that. They really got that, so they tried to play maybe that emotional part into it to show he's more human. I don't know. You sit here and split hairs all day on that.
Yeah, I know. Split hairs, but it didn't work for me. I didn't like the way they played that little chunk of the movie. It just was far too
But the rest of it was fantastic.
I mean, overall, the movie was great. I can watch that movie. I've got it on Blu-ray. Love the movie. It's a great movie. But that little chunk was just way too corny for me. You know, way too much of a throwback, like they're trying to pay tribute to the original movie when the original movie is just fine by itself. I mean, the original movie, the original Ron is by far the best Star Trek movie ever.
Yes.
They're bringing up a different Star Trek thing in the chat. What about the Q from whatever that one was?
Q, Next Generation.
Next Generation. So how come they don't bring them up anymore?
There's a
they might. They're doing a third one, a third new movie. So.
They could do with the Q. I mean, the Q continuum is a whole another thing that they kind of delved into off and on throughout the Next Generation, Voyager, but
the way J.J. Abrams has it all set up, he's kind of going on a slightly different course too. Like, you know, if history was changed or the timeline was different from whatever, he can kind of roll with it any way he wants at this rate, though.
What do you think about this whole, like, being able to take the Enterprise down to the planet and stick it in a volcano and go underwater and all that?
I think that's awesome. It makes sense. If you can go underwater, you should be able to go into space at the same time.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about it. The idea, and because I am a geek when it comes to Star Trek stuff, the idea behind just the design of those spaceships. I mean, when Gene Roddenberry and all these guys got together back in the 1960s to create Star Trek, the idea behind those spaceships looking the way they did and being designed the way they were was Gene Roddenberry, who had been in the military and who had done a lot of research, got together and said, look, this is a spaceship. It doesn't have to look like a rocket, you know, because back in the 60s, everything looked like a rocket, you know, every time you had a sci-fi show. He's like, look, no, it doesn't need to look like a rocket because, you know what, it's always in space. It never goes in the atmosphere. You know, it doesn't have to be aerodynamic. You know, I mean, that was the whole idea behind it, and he's absolutely 100% right. And it made sense. So, you know, you kind of go with it at that, and then you look at it from a practical perspective of, well, could this ship really sit there without ridiculous amounts of power? Could that ship be holding up these huge? I mean, look at the damn ship. It's holding up this huge saucer that must weigh billions of tons of metal in an atmosphere with this skinny little neck attached to this other fuselage and all this. I mean, it wouldn't work. I mean, physically.
That's all I'm saying. And then I like the concept when they build them up on those like space platforms, you know, to be in space. I think that whole part's neat. But then they fly it down. I'm like, well, then why wouldn't you just build it on the damn ground? Why would you build it in space if you can just fly it up out of there?
Yeah, and it doesn't make sense. I mean, from just from a physics perspective, that couldn't. I mean, there's almost no imaginable way that could maintain its structure in an atmosphere without
and then it's
tumbling apart.
And its jets are in the back.
It's a reversed arch, and arches are strong, right? I mean, you can sit there and go all day about that. Maybe they got crazy super alloys in the future. I mean, they can just make it look like whatever.
It has to be that transparent aluminum.
Yeah, exactly. Weighs nothing, holds 1 billion pounds. You know, future science.
Well, and because the other side of it is that in the canon of the show, I mean, they explained, you know, because by the time you got to Voyager, Voyager was a craft that could land on a planet. Yeah, and it didn't happen very often.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it didn't happen very often in the show, but they explained it in the show that
was that the beginning of Voyager, or when would they do it? Or is that during like a time?
Well, in the first episode, they explained it, and then it happened.
Oh, cool.
Times throughout this series that it was designed specifically to land on a planet, and that it took a lot of structural stuff and different aspects of its engines and all that stuff to allow it to do that. That it was a whole thing. That it was a big deal that this thing could land on a planet. You know what I mean? Because none of the other ones were designed to do that. They were all built in space, designed to travel in space. They were never designed to land on a planet. It was a big deal that this thing had been designed to land on a planet. And it took place 100 and something years later than what the Star Trek movies take place in. Yet when that thing
Voyager was 100 years after the first Star Trek? I didn't know that.
Oh, more than 100 years. I think it's 100 something years. Voyager takes
Wow.
place much later than the original Star Trek movies. And so J.J. Abrams' new Star Trek movies basically take place the same time as the original series, so it's 100 and something years earlier. And they make it seem like it's no big deal that these ships can go underwater and land in an atmosphere and do all this other stuff, which I'm getting way too geeky here. I understand that. So.
Yeah, wasn't Bones like something like 180 some or 160 some years old in the first TNG?
I think from Kirk to Picard is roughly 120 years, if I remember
Which
correctly.
would make about right. I think he was like in the 160s.
But they meet each other in that one movie. In
Yeah,
Generations.
Whole time travel thing, yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's right. It's time travel loop. Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, okay. Yeah, I know this is Stone Guy's chat, and hopefully he's paying attention. I think it's time to shut it down. This has been almost 2 hours. This shit. I can't even talk
Is
2
that
hours.
all right if we shut it down now, Stone Guy?
Yeah,
That'd be-
yeah. Whenever, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, yeah. If
Yeah,
you're good,
we
good for
don't
that.
even do 2 hours on guns anymore. We've been doing
Right.
2 hours on this.
No, I thought shit. Matt ran that like a champ, dude. So we'll, like I said, we'll keep Matt'll do these on his channel on Mondays especially when The Walking Dead starts back up. I think we'll probably take turns running The Walking Dead chat or something, but that'll become more regular. These,
3 weeks.
Geek chats.
I think we got
2
2 or 3 weeks until Walking Dead.
12th, isn't it, or 13th, or something like that?
The 12th, I think. Yeah.
12th, yep.
Cool.
Starts in October.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll see you next time.